You are now tuned in to DameSmiff.
Welcome to Musician Talks with DameSmiff. This is episode 15, and today I want to talk to you guys about criticism as an artist and what it means, how it's beneficial, and how that affects artists. So, what is criticism as it pertains to artistry? Well, artists, we get critiqued a little differently than in general people, and with that comes a bit of a kind of a burden as an artist, whereas people are typically critiqued on their results. They're critiqued in a reactionary way, whereas artists are critiqued on those things as well as expectations and themselves. Like, people compare you to yourself. Now, what does that look like as an artist? So, to keep it simple, that would be if you were to put out one project and people received it well, they're going to critique you on what they expect from you in the next album, not necessarily what was given to you. I mean, they might as well, but that's what happens in addition as an artist. So why does it affect artists so greatly? And what makes that important to you as an artist? Well, the thing you want to make sure you're thinking about when it comes to criticism is whether it's critical, of course, or whether it's coming from a place of not reverence, but necessarily respect. The people that critique you, you want to make sure and be able to vet whether those people have good intentions with their criticism. Because some criticism without actual effect or results is simply an opinion. It just is what it is. But people tend to think of art in a different light, that art is something that's more of a feeling, and if something just doesn't feel a certain way, then it is what it is. But for that to actually be called criticism, we would have to put that into a results mindset, something tangible. Now, I'll give you an example of bad criticism. That would be to speak to an artist about their live performance, right? And they ask you for a review. And you put in the review how you felt, what happened, what you liked, what you disliked. But in that, it came from a place of, I'm not necessarily trying to see you do any better. This is just reactionary. It's just, I saw what happened in front of me and I'm reacting to it. Versus giving that same review and coming from a place of, I want you to improve upon these things, and the things that I enjoy, you don't necessarily need to improve on. They're fine as is or whatever. And you can see this everywhere now. Because of social media, we have almost a direct contact with the people we appreciate and call celebrities and things like that. Whereas you can get on Twitter and see people's opinions or just statements and comments about different people, but it's hard to differentiate who's coming at it from a critical perspective and not necessarily in an emotive or reactionary one. And social media heightens this, but what are the effects of this when you are an artist? How do you filter through the bullshit, in a sense? I've noticed plenty of artists, they kind of develop a team that they trust for this information that isn't, privy, that the public isn't privy to. And that's a double-edged sword in my opinion, whereas you have kind of a vacuum on information on what to improve on versus, exposing yourself to the public and allowing you to critique the public. The double-edged sword of it is that it's hard to filter out what to filter, if that makes sense. So if you create a team that you trust to critique you and be critical in their thinking on how to improve your artistry, you've pretty much set up and chosen the people you're gonna receive this information from, unless they were placed in your life, which kind of removes the point I'm making right now. But if you have chosen these people, odds are you've chosen them on characteristics and traits that you prefer. They're not necessarily like, you wouldn't pick a person that you know you don't get along with or doesn't agree with your perspective and ask them to be critical just naturally. It could be beneficial, but you're not naturally going to do that, especially if you're in the position to pick the people to be on this team. And on the other end of it, if you expose yourself to the public, it's almost impossible, unless you're consistent with it and can see the trends and results and things like that. But it's almost impossible to be able to filter it, just because you simply just don't know these people and their background, perspectives, why they're doing what they're doing, and so forth. So moving forward, as an artist, what can you do to not necessarily control your narrative and your critiques and people's opinions of you, but how can you leverage that as an artist? What would be the benefit of those reactionary comments and unrealistic expectations for an artist? Well, the key thing that I've noticed in my personal experience is to always stay present as the artist. Now, the human aspect of you, or maybe the businessman in you, is thinking, in the future, thinking ahead, try to say 10 steps ahead of yourself and things like that, which is good. But when it comes to the actual artwork, it's important to remain present and realize that what you're giving to these people is a reflection and not necessarily a improvable product, like a tangible product. And I spoke about this in, I think, my first 2 or 3 episodes. But to keep it in music, when you deliver music to an audience, what they're hearing for the very first time from play to stop is the product. Now, when they take it home and put it in their life, and when they show it to their friends and they do their blogs and their reviews and things like that, that's them taking what you've given them and moving it into a whole nother realm as far as what that artwork means and what it is to them. So the avid music fan sees your album very different from the professional music blogger, and very different from the person who's a casual listener. So it's always important to remember those things and to keep that in perspective while trying to stay present. So, because you can forget those things and you might think that the bloggers are hating on you because of whatever XYZ, but in actuality, what it is what you have presented to them in the present they don't enjoy. So that's your leverage as an artist, to stay in the present, because you have the ability to change future expectations without having future expectations affecting your current thought. A great example would be, I can maybe name like 2 or 3 people. Kanye West, Kendrick Lamar. Who's another one? Currency is a good one. All these consonants. But these artists, when they're producing various projects, and all of them have different, densities in their catalog. Some have a lot more music than others, and some have just, higher magnitude music with less volume. But each of those artists, when they create and they deliver their product, each one of those products are unique to the time that they're in or the time that they were released. And with that, that's the leverage. And after that, if I buy an album or if the bloggers listen to it, it's now ours and we can do whatever we want with it. But them being able to create unique products each and every time allows them the ability to adjust, the ability to improve, and the ability to evolve in a sense. Versus the artist who is expecting to deliver the same sound to an audience that expects the same sound. That artist has a lot less wiggle room to experiment and be creative, but they have, if they're good at it and are disciplined and consistent, they have an opportunity to maximize in terms of volume. But that's where the double-edged sword comes in. So then if this person maximizes on volume and you're noticing, because again, you can't control the music industry in the sense of where you position yourself in the market, because sounds change, cultures shift, and things like that, and that affects us. So if the sound you've been consistently making is no longer relevant, people aren't listening to it, the critiques you're getting in the present time may seem negative and might change your decision making for what you're going to do in the future. Versus having products that come out, in a very present type of face value, very present presentation. The critiques for those will be for a moment. It wouldn't be a critique of you as an artist. It would be a critique of your work. And so the improvement can come from, if people are saying, this album's trash, I hate it, then you can, if you dig deeper, find out why, or just think about the formula you used to create the album and adjust it there. And that's pretty much what would grant you the leverage as an artist to be able to improve and things like that. But the only issue is figuring out as an artist, and even as an individual, just removing the artist moniker, as an individual, what you filter in terms of what you receive as information from people. Some people don't receive information well if it's not emotionally sound or pleasing. Some people don't receive information if it's too much information or it's not blunt or short or simple enough. And on the inverse, if information is too simple, some people don't have the capacity to take, a small metaphor or statement and then progressively think out the solution from that there. But it's important for you as an artist to understand and develop those things and nurture those things, because as you do age as an artist, the critiques will be different. And as you increase your skill and evolution as an artist, the critiques will be different. So that's all I have today. Be sure to like, share, subscribe, and follow the conversation on Facebook as well. I will be uploading every day, like I said, except for Wednesdays. And it'll be in the mornings between 9 and 11 a.m. East Coast time. Share this with anybody who's an artist, wants to be an artist, a musician, rapper, poet, violinist, instrumentalist, whatever it is. And they want to learn about the music industry or just have a simple conversation about anything they wonder about or their perspective or whatever it is. And that's it for me.